Hi friends, today we're going to be making some bookmarks. Here are a few that I have already made, and we're going to make one with a fall tree. You'll need some water paints, a brush, water, a paper towel or rag, some paper, and tape. I've taped the paper so that it gives us the bookmark shape and we'll have some nice clean edges. So first we're going to use the blue, and we will start up at the top. Notice that I'm not being too picky about how neat it looks. When it dries, all of the little blotchy white areas will look like clouds. You'll also notice that I'm adding more water and less paint as I get down toward the land, or where the land will be. That is a special technique that you use when you're painting landscapes or outdoor scenes. Things get lighter as they get closer to the horizon. The horizon is where the land and the sky meet, and that makes it look like it's more realistic. So as I paint the top, I'm using a little more paint, and when I go closer to where my land is going to be, I'm not using much paint at all, so that the blue down near the land is very light, and that will trick your eye into believing that it's much farther away from you. Now we're going to start the tree, and since it's a fall tree, the leaves will have changed. With watercolors, you want to start with the lightest color. So I'm going to use yellow and just dab the yellow on and push it around with the brush to make some little splotchy parts. I also want the top part of my tree and the left side of my tree to be a little lighter. That way it will look like the sun is shining down from the left. So notice, once again, I'm just putting the top part of the tree and a little bit of the middle with yellow. Now I'm going to add orange and make the lower part and middle part of the tree. The paint will naturally mix with itself. The orange and the yellow will sort of run together, and that's okay. It will again trick your eye into thinking that there's a whole bunch of little leaves and things going on in the tree. But you want to make sure not to cover up all the yellow at the top. Next, I'm going to use a light brown to make the trunk. And I'm going to just pull it down, not too straight, because most trees aren't perfect straight lines. And we only need a few branches. So you'll notice that once I have the main part of the trunk done, I'm just making little teeny branches. And if you put too much paint on, and the branches are too thick up the top, you can always dab your brush on your paper towel or cloth and remove a little bit of the paint by just going over it. The dry brush will act like an eraser and soak up some of the paint that's already on there. Then I'm going to use a darker brown and follow the same line of the trunk but on the right side. That way, when my tree is done, it will look like the left side is brighter than the right side. And again, that's because we want it to look like the light or the sunshine is coming in from the left, which means the right side of the tree would have shadows on it. And that darker brown will make it look like the tree has a round shape. It's the same thing that the orange will do up in the top of the tree. It will look like the yellow parts of the tree are brighter and the orange parts are darker or shadowy. Now we're going to start with the land, and I'll start with a lighter green, and I'll start where I want my land to be. I'm being careful not to mix the green with the brown of the tree, and just go a little bit above where the tree stops. That way it will look like there's some land behind the tree. And I'm just putting the light green down Now I'm using some darker green to make the land that's closer to me. Again, in a landscape, or that's a nature painting, the farther something gets from you, the lighter it gets. So we want the very bottom part of the land to be darker because that's closer to us. I'm also putting just a little bit of the dark green where the tree meets the ground, and that will look like there's some shadow there. And in that bottom corner, I'm making it the darkest part of the land. That will make it, again, look closer to me, but it will also look like the tree is casting a shadow. I'm also making some tiny up and down strokes. Those are called vertical strokes with the brush, instead of going back and forth or horizontal. The closer something gets, it will look more detailed, and that will look like grass. Now I'm adding just a few leaves in orange, like they're falling down from the tree, and a few leaves with the yellow, so they look like they're falling down. Maybe the wind is blowing them off the tree. And if they're falling down, there would also be some leaves on the ground. So I'm going to put some orange and yellow on the ground. You notice as I put that down, I put too much orange at first. And so I'm going to go back with the dry brush later on and sop it up. I'm also putting some yellow in there so that it looks like some of the yellow leaves have fallen. And because that big orange spot looks a little too clumpy, like the leaves are in a huge pile, I'm going to go back and add just a little green, a few dots of green in that orange pile so that it will look like some of the grass is showing through, or maybe that some of the leaves that fell off were green. Once I'm done, I have to let it dry, and then once the paint is totally dry, I will take the tape off and cut out the bookmark, and I'm going to make sure I leave just a little bit of the white edges on the side of the bookmark so it will look like that when it's all done.